Hey everybody, welcome to the YouTube page. I'm Phil Jose. Thanks for joining me for episode 40 of The Art of Reading Smoke with Phil Jose live here on YouTube. Not only am I live here today, I'm also live on, I'm going to stream the YouTube. If I can do this, which I think I do sometimes, it automatically sends whoever posts it, in this case Ben Saladino, gives him a notice I'm using it and that sort of thing. And I think it's good crossover, trying to support the other people who are putting these videos out online. Hey, thanks for checking out. If you did check out yesterday's SBSK Facebook post, thanks for doing that. It's a pretty short video today. It's only 2 minutes and it's not super complicated. Not every reading smoke situation is that complicated, right? Sometimes they're often, in fact, they are straightforward, and we're always looking to see where our expectations come into alignment and where what we see and what we expect starts to get out of alignment, and that's where we can ask some additional questions. And there's something here today that was out of alignment for me, not major, right, just minor thing, but something to take note of. As always, before we start, I want to shout out to the new subscribers. Firefighter Bloop, hey Bloop, welcome aboard. And Don Herbert, welcome aboard, Don. And happy to have more subscribers every day. And I'm looking forward to getting to see some people at the conferences, which is FDIC in early August. I'll be teaching there on Wednesday. And then Firehouse in Columbus, Ohio. Sorry, I always got the wrong city. Sorry about that, Columbus. Shout out, I think that's local 66 or 67 out there for that AFF in Columbus. If I'm wrong, you can always let me know in the show notes. If you're tuning in live, hit me up on the chat if you have a question or an idea you want me to talk about with the video. I certainly try and do that. I got the chat going down here and the screen up here, right? So we're always looking at volume, velocity, density, color, right? And there's different ways to think about those things. Volume, we think about in terms of a lot or a little, right? High or low volume. Velocity, we're thinking in terms of laminar, which is cool, smooth, flowing smoke, and turbulent, which is angry, agitated, action without order, right? Density, how thick is the smoke? Generally speaking, density is going to tell us how much fuel is in the smoke. And then color, white, brown, black, gray on the gray scale, right? In this case, we have a pretty good volume, right? But only from this top area. We don't see any volume as we do this inventory. We don't see any volume from anywhere else. Just pretty much around the top. Velocity, I think there's sort of pretty good turbulence here, even in the still photo. Obviously, we'll take a look at the video here in just a second. Density, pretty thick here, and then since there's a pretty good wind blowing, it cools, it gets distributed pretty fast, but you can see it all the way out into here. And because of the volume and the wind, we're seeing some swirling here, where sometimes it slightly obscures the house. And color in the grayscale, mostly in the whites and blacks. In fact, mostly in the white here with some black right in the center here. And that's what we got going on. All right, let's start playing the video with the Bedford, Texas Fire Department on the fire attack here. Looks like right now they got a line lane, they're masking up. And as you can see, this volume, right, because of the wind, it's sort of swirling around in the black and gray. You can see the turbulence here, the agitation, the churning, right, the expanding as it gets away from the building in the browns or in the blacks and grays. And you see some white here, right? So we're seeing here is a fair amount of steam production, as well as a pretty hot fire in an attic. So this is hot enough, right? That and with enough heat release rate and preheating of the material, that we're not seeing a lot of brown in here if this is an unfinished space, right? So there's probably some unfinished lumber in here. And sometimes we see brown from unfinished lumber spaces tell us that the structural elements are starting to be impacted, but we know they're being impacted. We see little hints of brown in here. But as that gets superheated, right, it's going to off gas into the black zone anyway. The one thing that's a mystery to me here is I'm not seeing anything from this gable vent. And so I put that out there in the Facebook post as well. Right, let me kill the volume here a little bit. Even when we zoom in close, I mean, it's hard to tell for certain, right? But I just don't think there's anything coming out of there. And I would anticipate, right, there might be a little bit, right? You see here, it's always, I mean, it's tough for me just because I think some of that is getting swirled around, goes up the eaves, and then gets swirled around up there. It's possible there's a little coming out of it, but here's my expectation, right? The wind's not blowing directly into this place. The wind looks to me like it's blowing sideways. And so if this was all one big open attic where this space, this vent was connected directly, I'd expect to see pretty significant smoke coming out of there. Pretty high volume, probably turbulent, and in the grayscale, maybe a little bit more white than black, because as it's getting heated, as that stuff's coming from the back to the front, all the wood that's in there is going to start off-gassing, right? First it's water vapor, then we might see some brown out of there, depending on how this other space gets heated. But the reality is, in this case, I'm not seeing that, right? I'm not seeing that. And so there's a couple of possibilities, and this is where we get into building construction and understanding your response area, right? So one possibility is there's some sort of scissor truss in here, and so this is just, maybe this is decorative, and maybe there's cathedral ceilings in here. One thing that reinforces that a little bit, and I'm going to go forward on the video just so we get a little clearer view of the house, is this sort of arch, right? That would be right on that 8-foot level. If you see, if we look at the ceiling, if the ceiling came straight across here, it would actually encompass this window, right? And so there's got to be some sort of elevation going on for the ceiling in here, and possibly there's a scissor truss, and then this is just a real small area, or maybe it's just decorative. Another thing that happens sometimes when they frame these, especially with all these different pitches and stuff, they'll frame if they frame this section first and they lay the sheeting down, likely OSB, right? Likely 7/16 OSB. They'll just run it all the way back, and so underneath here, instead of there just being the truss base, there'll be a layer of OSB on top of this roof that runs underneath this roof. Sometimes for structural stability, sometimes just because it's quicker and faster, and time is money when you're on these jobs. Gives them a place to stand when they're working later, that sort of stuff, right? And so that could be the case here, where it's just pretty significantly cut off just due to the way that they built it. So those are just two possibilities. There's something else going on. This is the sort of thing that if I was at this fire and I noticed this, the first thing I'd do is I'd look up when I went in here and I'd go, oh yeah, maybe cathedral ceiling. I go, that's a pretty good explanation, and just move on. But probably if there's no smoke coming out of there, there's not a significant threat up there anyway, and I want to get in quickly, get access to this fire either through the scuttle or even just yanking the ceilings down. I mean, honestly, they're going to have to come down anyway, so I'd look from here. When I looked inside, I'd want to see where I thought that was in relation, get in there quickly with pike poles or whatever tool you use, and get the water up in there, which this crew does pretty fast. We're already, let's see, we're minute 35, and there's pretty significant fire attack underway already. You notice we're going to go back, and we can play this, right? You can see the flame here. When we get up to here, no flame, right? We can go back again, and we can see the volume, right? It's so much volume is swirling around and obscuring our vision of the house. The volume goes way down to the point where it's pretty much just out here, right? Density, really thick column here that you can see way up into the atmosphere. As it goes up, it just stays thick, right? If we get back down here, right, it's pretty thin up here now, right? So the density's way down, and the color, we're looking pretty dark in here, especially as we look up here. Not totally in the black, but in the black zone for sure, like in the dark gray and that kind of stuff. Whereas when we get down here, we're pretty much looking at clean, pristine, dissipating white. So a lot of steam with some small amount of smoke mixed in, right? So over the course of a minute from the time they go in there, we see a really significant change in volume, velocity, density, and color. If you're on the outside, you're a crew coming in later, the conditions you're seeing now are not probably what they reported, right? And that's good, right? That's good. That means we're getting the fire attack, and that crew's sort of killing it. All right, let's talk about a couple other things we can look at here. With this door open and the fire in the attic, there's no smoke coming out the door, right? There's no smoke at all coming out the door. With this sort of pressure, this sort of velocity, right, that tells me that the ceiling membrane is likely to be intact. If the ceiling had pushed down or fallen down, we'd probably see this, not just the smoke pushing out here, but smoke pushing in. It could be, right, that's what I would expect to see, right? It's possible this would be 100% intake, but if we were at the door, we'd be able to see, feel, hear that as we're working in the store. You know, that wind would be coming from behind us. But either way, the visibility in here is going to be excellent. You could probably get a primary search done in this whole structure in less than a minute with that sort of visibility. Maybe you even want to do that before you start yanking the ceiling down, right? Make sure that there's no people in there other than our firefighters. As they're getting in position, we have really good visibility. We can get all that stuff done. All right, and we'll just let this play through now as we go. So at the beginning, right, we have pretty significant volume, high volume, turbulent, thick. And then in the brown, gray, dark on the grayscale, right? Not black, not brown, but with the thickness, definitely in the grayscale with some brown mixed in. As the first crew makes entry, and then the follow-on crew, the backup crew, or maybe they're helping with overhaul or pulling ceilings or whatever it is, whatever their assignments are, they get in there, and pretty quickly we're going to start to see this fire attack underway here. You saw the chief come by, completing the 360. And overall, pretty significant knockdown, getting over the top on this fire in relatively short order. And so pretty good job for the citizens we served down there in Bedford, Texas. Right? Still, like I always talk about, right, at the end of these videos, I'm like, oh yeah, they did a really nice job on the fire. In this case, they're over the top on it, right? Have reduced the risk tremendously, right? But there's still a lot of work to do. Still a lot of digging out to do. Probably have to go up here and cut some of this roof off, right? There's a couple of hours of labor still left to do here on this fire in Bedford, Texas. All right. Okay, so the video on SBSK, real short. The video here, we're in about 12-13 minutes. But not a complicated fire, right? That doesn't mean that there isn't stuff to learn, because most of our fires go pretty well. If we're not learning from those, right, we don't want to wait until there's one that goes poorly before we start to take note of the lessons that are possible, not just from the fires we go to, but the ones that we're going to analyze here at Reading Smoke and on the SBSK page. All right, so check out the show notes. That'll give you every place I'm teaching. If there's a registration link, that should be in there. My Chief Technology Officer is working on updating my website. That's at www.ignitionpointtraining.com. Ignition Point Training. I want to light your mind on fire, brothers and sisters, as you learn to fight fire, and we work together to make our operational environment competent, safe, quick, effective, all the things that we want in order to provide the best service possible, right? The best service possible every single day. And with that, I'm going to call it a day today, and we will see you next week. If you have questions or comments, go ahead and hit me up. Other than that, thanks everybody for being part of the Reading Smoke Nation. I really do appreciate it. We'll see you next